What's coming up ahead?
Oh, hey, sis.
Hi, welcome.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. We're so excited you're here today. And welcome back to the CEO Sisters Road Trip. I'm Liz, your business coaching consultant, and I'm here with my beautiful sister, Sarah, who is the heart and hands behind Sarah Jane Pottery. Today's guest is a perfect bridge between our two worlds. Jill Huentelman of HuentelGlas is an entrepreneur and a stained glass artist, as well as a scaled up coach. And she lives at the intersection of making, teaching, and growing. She spent nearly 2 decades growing a tech training company that was wildly successful before intentionally pivoting to build this new studio dedicated to the craft, community, and connection. We are so excited to have her along today, for sure.
Yes. So this episode is brought to you today, folks, by a dear friend, family friend of ours, Katie Hines. May she rest in peace. Katie Hines was a woman of many talents and many gifts. She was a culinary genius. She was a collector of all things art related, and she was just an eccentric, beautiful soul. And she shared with us her love of arts and collecting things. And she was actually one of the first people that took us to a place in Canton, Ohio, where we were born and raised. She took us to a place called Studio Arts and Glass. And that's where we, for the first time, probably saw how you actually make stained glass. What do you remember about her?
Oh, Katie, I love her. Well, first of all, she had the world's best Christmas parties. She only had, at last count, 42,000 Santa Clauses.
Yes.
I think that's right. I think those numbers are track. And she had the greatest Christmas parties, and it was a full event. And I remember being in college where we were allowed to drink alcohol, and we would go there and just drink whatever fun cocktail.
Fancy fun drinks.
In every room, it was like a Christmas museum, and it was so beautiful. And she loved Christmas so much. But she had tchotchkes and so many beautiful glass things and like stained glass out the wazoo. She just had everything beautiful. Yeah. That was fun.
A collector's home. It was gorgeous. It was fun. Good
Thanks,
memories.
Katie. Yeah, good memories.
Warm. Those were warm memories.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you,
thanks, Katie. All right, I just want to give you a picture of Jill, who is our guest today. Jill Huentelman owns a business called HuentelGlas. Over 20 years ago, Jill founded Lernia Training Solutions, which is an education company that served the corporate world. She successfully grew that business. You can read about it on her website. She'll talk about it even more. She exited Lernia because she wanted to do something else. And she knew she always loved stained glass. It was a hobby for her, and she found a way to get back to it. She started learning and teaching herself stained glass, watching DVDs, learning how to do it. And finally, in 2016, she had the time and the space to explore the creative side more intentionally. The passion grew into selling handmade pieces, accepting commissions, and offering private classes. She's since then built a studio called HuentelGlas, where she does just that. She teaches stained glass, she hosts workshops and events to help other entrepreneurs grow their businesses, and then she actually sells her beautiful pieces. So we're super excited because she has these 3 promises that we'll talk about today: building beauty, building business, and building belief. And I can't wait for her to dive in and tell us a little bit more. Well, hello, Jill.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Thank you for joining us on the episode of the CEO Sisters Road Trip. We are so excited because you were an interesting little pit stop as to how we met each other and how you got here. So thank you. Thanks for talking to strangers. Well, thanks for talking to strangers, because I think this is what I did. I was like, oh my gosh, I love your stuff. It's so great. Tell me everything. Like literally. And she's like, I'm busy.
I'll be like, yeah, let's talk. Let's do it.
And you did.
We're talking business. We're talking art. What?
It was so fun. That's what I was telling Sarah. I said it was so fun because I'm looking at all her beautiful things. I'm buying some ornaments with Sarah's childhood best friend who was with me. And I said, so tell me, how'd you get into this? And really quickly you said this. And I said, well, I have this podcast with my sister. I'm a coach. And she goes, I'm a coach too. And I was like, what?
I know, the connection. I mean, you can't make that up.
Right. It was great.
Yeah, you're a superhero. You're like the combination of Liz and Sarah. So you're like the perfect human. This is really no pressure though, Jill.
No pressure there. I don't know. Bar's pretty high on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So let's just dive in, Jill. Tell us. I think you have such an amazing, very interesting story, and I'd have to say, the last few guests we've been interviewing have a similar story in that they all said, "All right, that was cool. I did that pretty well. What else?"
Yeah.
And that's your story. So how did you get to where you are today in 2026? Give us a little way back snippet of how you got here.
Way back
please.
Machine. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'll start way back because I always say this. There's a little bit of an arc to my life. I don't know. I think we have arcs when you get to be in your 50s. I don't
Sure,
know.
agreed.
So I'm supposed to be a high school English teacher by college, and I love teaching. I've always loved teaching. That has always been in my heart. And then I graduated college, and I also knew I always wanted to run a business. Like, my aunt was instrumental. I think she was an entrepreneur, like way back in the 80s, and had her own business. And I think I looked at that and I said, that's cool. I want to do that. So I got my MBA along the way.
Yep.
And then I just was doing training in corporate America, really for pharmaceutical companies. I didn't even know what a pharma company was.
Did you love that?
94. I'm like, what? A pharma what?
Yeah.
What
But
do
you're
they
like,
do?
I could teach whatever.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll figure it out. I love it.
So, and during the time, it was the time when all IT systems were being implemented globally, right? So I kind of got on that train, and then I finished my degree, and it's kind of funny. I call this I didn't really launch. I was more like kicked out of the nest a little bit, meaning At the time I was traveling a lot for my work, and my grad school said, look, you got to finish your degree or you're done. You're traveling too much. You're missing too much school. So I said, well, this is a no-brainer. I quit my job and went to school full-time for a semester just to finish it. I was so close to being done. And it was during that time that I said, you know what? I'm going to put out my little single shingle and start my business. And I think I had $3,000 to my name.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm like, there was no safety net. I wasn't married, none of that. I didn't have kids. And so I just took the leap, and I ended up landing my first customer after five meetings, and they became my first customer.
That's amazing.
And so that was the birth of my first business. It's called Lernia, and it was training for pharmaceutical companies. So I ended up growing that. I don't know, we were 2010, I think we're one of the fastest privately growing companies in Philly for 2 years in a row. I had great people. I mean, really good people that kind of came along that journey with me. And fortunately, during that time, I had a great business coach. I think I was at the top Philly 100 celebration, and this woman walks across the stage, and she's like, all right, you're holding all your people accountable. Who's holding you accountable?
Oh, nice.
As an owner? And I'm like, nobody. I'm making this up. I said that to myself.
Totally.
And,
Yep.
So I ended up getting a business coach for 10 years, and they taught me a lot. It was great to have a partner and somebody that you could talk to about business, real business, not just, in the school books, as it were.
Exactly,
And-
right? I mean, there is such a huge difference between, here's what the MBA manual says, because that's the thing. It's not a thing. And then you get out and you're like, cool, that one case study seems like it fits here, but what? No, what? I'll figure it out, right? And you just sort of go, that was nice. I have this thing that says I can do it, so I guess I can. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And so I just fell in love with then helping other businesses too. I was involved in a think tank with other businesses. And I just became like, oh my God, small business is like the heartbeat of America to me. They are the heroes. Not that I'm a hero.
100%.
It's more like the people that run businesses
Yes.
and get out there. I'm like, hats off, because it's hard.
Yes.
It is hard.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's really hard. And so I was very fortunate to have mentors and people that helped me. And I said, well, maybe I need to give back. Like, how can I give back in service and help others? So I became a small business coach.
Yep.
And I've been doing that 7 or 8 years now. And my Lernia business, like, was on autopilot, I'm going to be honest, for a while. So I then figured out, God, what's next? Because I didn't wake up thinking I wanted a training company for pharma. Like,
Right.
I fell into that. Like, let's be real.
Yep, totally. Again, that's not what little baby Jill playing with Barbies is like. No. I teach pharmatech. Good, I love pharmatech. Thank you.
I'm like, who does that? So I had to have like a little bit of an awakening, for me, and be like, well, what do I want in this season of life, I call it. So I went on this kind of explorative journey, and I took classes, and I kind of did gardening and quilting, and I don't know. And then I took a class on stained glass, and I said, now this is interesting.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I don't know, I learned a little bit on DVD way back when, and then before YouTube. Oh my God.
Correct.
Yes.
And then I just kept going back to it. And then I rented a little art gallery. Shout out to Gallery 222 in Malvern. That's, I was right above in their gallery for like 9-10 years. And then just honing my craft, just doing creative work. I called it my she shed. It was like my place to do this, escape and just get a little bit of creativity time. I've always been a creative, I think. And creative, I always said creative and business are two sides of the same coin for me.
Agreed.
I can't separate them.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like, how can I do both? How can I create kind of a life where I get to do these things? And then I realized, well, I'm a teacher. I want to teach glass. So I spent a number of years just learning the craft. It's not a simple craft. And then now I moved into a larger space. I teach classes. I have a studio. I don't know. It's like building a community, which I never saw coming in that way. I was like, oh, I'm going to teach class and talk about glass. And now I coach businesses that are in the glass industry. I mean, I love it.
Love that.
I'm just like, have migrated into this whole new phase.
Please.
What an evolution.
100%.
That's a good
Wow.
word, Sarah.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably the word.
Truly, though, I mean, you have gone. I mean, your journey is incredible, and to take you to do what you love to do, and to give yourself the time. So, when you were, real quick question, when you were in Malvern upstairs creating, were you selling or were you just creating for yourself?
No,
Not at all. So
me.
that was just your she shed.
Yeah, I just wanted to be around other creatives. I believe in the proximity principle. Like, if you want to, my mom had a saying, I guess. It goes back to my mom. My mom always said, whatever you shine a light on will grow bigger. That was her philosophy. And so I always wanted to be near the arts, because if I shined a little bit more light and opened that space a little bit, not knowing what it was going to do, I just wanted to grow that in my life. And so when I rented that studio, I didn't even tell my husband. I just went out. I saw it on a Craigslist ad. I went out. I rented it right there and there. And I'm like,
I love that.
And I'm like,
You do.
like, I rented an art studio today. He's like, what? What? What did you do?
Yeah, for real.
Well, I got gas. I went to Wegmans. I rented a studio, and now we're having carbonara for dinner. So
I said, I don't know why. I don't know where this is coming from.
God,
but
I
I
love
need
this.
a place.
But I did it.
Yeah, just to
Amazing.
be my place. And it wasn't about anybody else. And I went there, and, I'm the new kid on the block learning art, and everybody else they're artists. They've been in this
Seasoned.
world. They're painters, and they're, a jewelry maker. There was a photographer in the building. And I'm like, who are all these wonderful creatives that I get to be around? And it was like, rubbing off pixie dust a little bit. It's great. It was so pivotal.
awesome.
I do soft
Jill,
piano
I love your
covers.
story so far. This is so exciting.
Thank you.
This
You know
is
what?
So, this is
Do you know what?
so
I feel like I'm helping you date, Sarah. I feel like I'm bringing you best friends. And that's really the core of this. I like Laura, who we just met. She's a fine art painter, and they are now dating. And now you and Jill are going to be dating.
Oh my God.
So,
No.
the
Totally
thing is, here you scram. The thing is just humanity, just learning about people's stories and your missions and your causes and your values, and I mean, just this world doesn't feel like it has enough of that in this season. So getting to have a half hour's worth of your time to hear your story just makes my heart so full. I love hearing.
Oh my God. No,
Cheers.
Thank you for being on here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
agreed.
Thanks for
Agreed.
having me.
All right, so I have a question for you, Jill. In our notes that you shared with us prior to the show, you talked about your 3 promises. You talked about building beauty, building business, and building belief. I'm just curious about all of this. Like, where did these come from, and how do you apply them to your day-to-day life in your business?
Yeah. So I think one of the things, when I went on this journey, I didn't have any of that in mind. I was just looking for a creative outlet. And so, but I think like, I always knew I love running a business. So I knew at probably at some point this was going to turn into more than just a hobby. Like I just love the ground zero to making something launch and work and that whole journey. And where those things come from, honestly, they come from my customers, which is really interesting because it's, you know, I think as a creative, I go into it just with the love of the craft. I love glass. I love light when it comes through glass. There's an ethereal part of it. There's traditional aspects of it. I love the hands-on craft of it. But when people I started to get people asking for classes. They're like, can you teach me one-on-one? Yes. And then I did one-on-ones. And then I did one-on-twos if they knew each other because my space was so tight. I did not have a big space. And we were all shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
And then I started getting groups. And I'm like, okay, I need a bigger class. And they would come to me and they're like, well, it's just so beautiful, right? And you offer classes and we need to be around beautiful things right now. Or we need to be around creativity, right? So we need to be around just that energy. And what I realized was they weren't coming to learn glass. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a shot to the heart because I love the craft.
Yep.
But they were coming for totally different reasons. They were coming for a connection to something, right? Like connection to their past, or my grandmother did stained glass and, you know, I want to revive her window, or I just love the tradition of it. And then they started coming for community, which I was not prepared for. Like, I was like, they just would come, and fortunately I have a space where it's like a little bit of a lobby so you can sit around and people bring their own food because we work over lunch, and they just started like hanging out. Yeah. And then they're like, well, do you have an open studio? Can we come back? And I'm like, really? You want to come back here?
Do this more?
Do this more? I'm
yes.
like, well, sure. So I started having open studio, and then I started realizing I just listened, you know, to what they were saying. And they're like, we just want a place and, you know, a place that we can come and create, and we lose ourselves here. We don't think about the outside world, and we just love beautiful things. And I'm like, okay, well then that's what I want to offer. Like, I don't know if this happens to you guys. You guys tell me, but in your 50s, you have like moments of like, okay, how do I want to spend my time and my energy?
Yes.
And also for me, it's like, how can I be best service to people?
Yes.
Like, because I've been the fortunate recipient of much love and a lot from women, but like meaning support.
Yep.
And so I always ask, how can I be of service? So if I can listen to the people that come through the door, I mean, really listen, say like, well, why are you here? Mm-hmm. And it's often not to learn glass.
Nope. So it's so funny.
Right, Liz?
Dude, last week, sorry I'm saying dude, but dude. Last week, we met with this woman, Laura, and she we were talking about, she sells, she's a fine art painter, as I said, and she exclusively does pictures of Long Beach Island. Okay. Right? And so we were saying, you don't actually sell paintings, you sell memories.
There you go.
And it's the same thing. Like you just said, I don't sell that. I sell connection, tradition, and community.
Right.
Right? And then she also kept saying, I just listen. So I love this so much. You're listening to yourself when it's time to move. You're listening to yourself when it's time to take something and take a flyer and say, let's just try it. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
And then listening to your audience, sitting in that lobby and listening to what they're really saying to you. Like, of course the glass is exquisite and beautiful.
Right.
But that is not what they're buying. They're buying the transformation that the whole world falls away. I mean, it is doing what you're supposed to be doing, I think is I think that's the recipe.
Yeah.
I think that's what the recipe is.
There's something about this conversation that feels like when we're young entrepreneurs and we're trying to find that thing. Like, what is it? I know there's more. I know I need to do something. we are pushing and we're kind of striving to find that thing. But that's not how it seems that businesses like this are coming to fruition. It is by kind of growing where you are, where you're planted, being in the moment and doing what you're doing in that moment, knowing that it's a period of growth. Everything grows us for the next thing. But this idea of just listening to what the need is.
Yeah.
And I can remember a season where I was just pushing and pushing, like, well, I have to figure out what I'm going to do. But you know what? The more I pushed, I wasn't finding the answers. It was through my experiences and my journey that things started to kind of come together. So if we could somehow go back in time and say, just be in the moment. And clearly I feel like your journey has been that. Be in the moment, be happy with what you're doing, learn what you're learning in that moment, because the next thing's going to unfold as a part of that.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's so hard though. Like, I think we have seasons in our lives, right?
Yep.
So like when you're younger, you're just trying to figure out how to pay rent. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
pay the bills. And then you got kids, and then you're just trying to make sure they come home with 10 fingers and 10 toes.
Yep.
And then, college, la la la, you get through that. And then this season's lovely because it's like, oh, I actually have space.
Yep.
Think and to reflect. You know what I mean? I think I went through probably a year of just coming in the morning to the office, sitting in a chair, reading a book and having a cup of coffee, and then just closing my eyes and sitting there. And I was like, wow, I've never had that. Like, that's very fortunate to have that, because I didn't have that in my 20s. We're always hustle, hustle, hustle. So I think there's definitely different seasons that you can do that. But I think sometimes slowing down in order to move forward is really important as business owners, right?
Yeah.
And listening to your customers.
Yep.
It's not so
Always
much what you want to do. It's what problem am I solving for you? You know what I mean? And how can I solve that problem for you better?
Amazing.
Like, that becomes the magic, the sticky part of it. So, but
Outward focus rather than looking into what am I going to do? What am I going to do for you?
Right.
Yeah.
And
It changes the tune.
how can I use art to make that come to life for you? It's such a beautiful, it's so different than corporate. Like,
Correct. And then I was going to say, and this is why I love hanging out with creative people like you, like both of you. It's, you see things holistically, and you see things for looking for the beauty. And beauty doesn't just mean looking; it's feeling. It feels beautiful. It feels transformative. It feels different.
Right.
I want to go back to Lernia for a second when you decided to sunset.
Yeah.
And what, you said a little bit about it, like it wasn't sitting well, but I know that is one of the scariest transitions, to take this wildly successful business that is financially stable. You have a huge team of people who look to you and are like, Jill, you're the best. You do all these things. You pay our paychecks. You give us stability. That being a CEO of a large team is a big deal.
Yeah.
Or what advice would you give, based on what you've done, to somebody who's in that space, and whether they're leaving their corporate job? I did this in 2016, and I'd been at a place for 17 years, and I knew it was time to go 3 years before I actually went. Yeah. And it was too scary, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making way too much money to leave. What am I going to do? I'm going to start something and get paid this many dollars? Like, that is crazy. So what advice would you have for somebody who's on that cusp of, it's time to go, it's time for a change? How do you talk about that?
Oh, that's such a great question. Thanks for asking that, because that was a journey. It wasn't just a light switch moment, especially when you grow that business too. Like, it's your baby.
It's your baby. That's what I mean, seriously.
Yeah, yes. No, like, that is like what you think about morning, day, and night, and in your dreams.
Yep.
And so, like, there's a special attachment to that. And so how do you disconnect from that? And I would say it probably took a good 3 to 5 years. First and foremost, it was not an over the night thing. And I would say the first thing is, I looked every day. I kind of just looked at things, and I listened to myself, and I said, I'm not enjoying this anymore. Just being aware that was starting to happen. And then I didn't need to fill it with anything. I think I needed to break down the constructs of what I had built and do it in a very intentional way that tried the least amount of harm to employees. I mean, I didn't sell it. A lot of people, advisors are like, you can sell, you can build and sell, you can, la da da. And I'm like, I don't think so, for many reasons, because at some point you have to ask, how much gas do I have in the tank? Right?
Yep.
'Cause I was going to look at a 3 to 4 year horizon to build it to where it would need to be to sell it. Right. So, and I'm like, I'm not up for that journey. So that was decision point one. And then the second was, all right, I had to look at financially, what would this mean? Right. My husband is also an entrepreneur and has his business. And, so two entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Make a very interesting household. But,
yes, it does.
It's a whole other podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he was very supportive in anything I wanted to do. So I think part of it was realizing that I had to break down what I had and then not necessarily know what I was going to build again, but realizing that I had faith that if I did it once, I can do this journey. And I'll be honest, some of the days I would cry. It was like grieving.
Yeah.
It was like grieving.
Exactly right.
Oh my God. Like you really have to acknowledge that is what's happening. And because some days I was like, oh my God, I just laid off 2 people. You know what I mean? Or like 2 more transitioned out, or I no longer have this. I have to do it myself. So I literally, had to dismantle it over a number of years consciously, and I think in a good way, the best you can do it, but you just have to have faith a little bit that it's going to be okay. But and allow yourself time to grieve. I'm going to be honest, like it was hard. And then some days I was like, oh, I have time to go do and I was really happy. And then I'd look back and go, oh, but all right, I got to run payroll. There's nobody here.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it was a total
I love it.
3 to 5 year transition that I did it over that period. And I think that was good because then it allowed me to also give me time to think. I don't want to jump into the next thing. Like I wanted to be really intentional.
Yep.
I think realizing it takes time is really important.
Agreed. I mean, you said so many things. The recipe you just gave us essentially was listen to yourself. Listen, like give yourself time to actually listen and hear it. Make a decision. Weigh out all your options. It's so lovely of just, all right, this is what happens if I move forward with this. This is what happens if I don't.
Right.
Which feels better? Which feels horrible? What do I want? Right. So listen, decide, grieve. I love that you said that. And it's a grieving process. And I think, it's like the death and rebirth. It's ending, it's dying, and we grieve. That's what we do as a person. Like it's a thing, yes, but it's bigger than that. So I love that. And then trust and have faith and give yourself time. It's a beautiful recipe.
Yeah, I think when we're, just to elaborate on the last point, I think when we're younger, we think what we have to offer is kind of our knowledge and, our skill set. But as you get older, you realize you have all this experience and that you have built up the ability to handle things and resilience. And I mean, life just can throw zingers at you. And so if you just go back to, well, I don't know what the next job will be, but it doesn't matter because I have all these competencies and resilience I've built up. And if you realize you have that, like to me, teaching became one of my competencies, right?
Yep.
And just the subject matter changes. But I know I teach, and I teach well. And if I know that about what I am and who I do, then the rest, it'll fall into place. So it's being really aware of having faith in your competencies, not in just your knowledge. I don't know if that makes sense.
It totally does.
Yes, absolutely.
We talked about that last week, too, of just understanding that an hour done by Jill is not an hour. It's 25 years. It's 30 years worth of experience, of knowledge, of searching, of researching, of exploring, experimenting, producing, creating, all of that. So, yes, I love that.
I have a question for you about this idea of teaching. I'm in the same boat, not in the same boat, but I often have people saying, can I come take a class? Can I learn? And I would be at stage 0. where it would be a one-on-one scenario. This is my studio. I can maybe have a couple of people in here at tops.
Yep.
So just sharing a little more on that experience and how teaching isn't so much your side hustle, but it's like your primary, and sharing with those, whether you're in the arts or any business really, where you want to share your knowledge and your experience and build that community.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the steps that got you to, like, tactical steps that got you to the teaching portion?
Right. No, it's a great question. So I think I would start, the first thing is I felt like because I'm the teacher, I had to know what I was talking about.
Yes.
So
Right.
I spent years just doing it, like the craft, right? So
Yep.
to make sure I felt like I was honoring it enough to be able to teach it. And then when I started to get people just asking me, right? Like, they go, oh, can you teach me? And I'll come in. At first I was like, I'm not ready yet. And then at some point I'm like, you know what? Okay, I might not know all of it, but I know enough that is probably more than they do. So I'm going to open that window open. So I did you can just do one person at a time. You know what I mean? And then two people at a time. And you start to realize, okay, I've got a methodology to this, like what the steps are and how to break it down. And, what are the major pieces that people need to learn in the craft, and then how long it takes. And then, you put a little pricing around it. That's part of it, is what should I be charging for this? In materials, how much materials I have, what my time is worth, all of that, so you can make sure you're not just giving it away. Because I think in the arts, we just give stuff away and we don't honor our time and ability. I would just test it.
Really? You would agree? Do we agree with that? Does everyone agree with that?
We totally agree.
You guys just did a podcast on pricing, which I love.
Yay!
Yay!
I know.
Oh, it's so
I know.
important. It's so
my gosh.
important.
Because you want
So
to be
important.
able to do this, and you can't do it at, negative dollars. It's not going to work in the long run. So I started that, just one or two, and then I started to get requests. So again, some part of me thinks I wanted to grow faster than, what was out there, and I wasn't ready for it. I think at one point I was like, I'm going to go rent a big space. And then I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I'm just going to listen to the universe. And so I started to get requests like, can you teach on site? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Let's try that. Yeah. And did one or two of those and learned from that. And then it got to the point where my studio was so full and with all of my supplies, and then teaching became hazardous. Like, I was like, somebody's going to step on glass. Or if they trip and fall, oh my God, this is not good. And that's when I said, I'm at my ceiling from an infrastructure standpoint. And that's when I started looking for space.
For bigger space.
Yeah. And then I did the math. Like, I'm a big do the math.
Yeah.
Like, how many classes do I need to do at what rate in order to, I don't know, pay my rent that month?
Yep.
There.
Yep.
Like, not even pay myself, but I just need to pay the lights and the rent.
Yep.
And what does that mean? And I wanted it to get down to one class on one weekend pays my rent for the month. Like, that was the deal.
That was the goal.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And so then it became, all right, do I have a parking lot? Can I, I made that the goal because I wanted to teach and I wanted to have that be a big part of my offering, right? So, and that's what I do. I teach, now I'm teaching every weekend, which is another life-changing, like.
Correct.
I'm in retail hour now. It's not what I'm used to.
Yes.
But I love it. I love spending.
You do? Okay.
I love it. Well, I wake up and I'm like, I get to do this every day. I get to do art and teach again. I'm like, this isn't work, and people pay me. Like, what? Like,
So
that's
right.
incredible.
Jill, you said so many things in there about how to do something like what you're doing, how to be intentional and deliberate about listening to your clients and saying, I'm not going to create 40 things that I think they want.
Right.
I'm going to create one thing that they asked for. And it's, you probably know this, but there's a book by Eric Ries called The Lean Startup, and it's the minimum viable product. Yeah. Let's try one thing and see if they really wanted it. Just because two people said it, I don't know, maybe it's just those two. And so I love that thinking
Yep.
to say, all right, so we're going to try it. This is what they've asked for. Let's see if other people want it too. Very specific, not a lot of choice, which means great. They can
Yep.
choose this or not. So brilliant. And then doing the math, you know,
Yeah.
being able to say, all right, because people always say, and you know this too, is how much does that cost?
Yeah.
And then they immediately look at other people's stuff. And
Right.
they're like, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Stop, look, it doesn't matter what they're doing.
I don't look at anybody's stuff. I don't.
No,
look
no,
at-
you
I
shouldn't.
don't.
Right?
I don't. And I am a low pricer. I'm just going to say, and not just because I'm testing the market. So
Yes.
every 6 months, 9 months,
Yes.
year, I raise my rates 10%. I'm
Yep.
just until I get a pullback. And I haven't
Correct.
reached that yet. So I'm like, oh, I'm underpriced, because if I'm getting 100% sold out classes, you know, the universe is telling me I'm doing it wrong. Like, I got to be able to raise it. And
Yep.
so I haven't hit my ceiling yet,
Cool.
which is great. But my husband's like, raise your prices, raise your prices. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I'm also building community. And I'm like, you know, like,
Exactly right.
Yes.
But again, you have a plan. I mean, again, like, do the math. Your math for you is 10% every 6 months.
yeah.
Watch and see.
Watch
10%
and see.
6 months. Watch and see. I love it.
Exactly.
It would be super scary if you said, all right, fine, we'll jump up 57%. Then you're like,
No, I'm like, these incremental little movements.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the power of one. Have you heard that? Yeah, the power.
no, share, please share.
Oh, okay. So the power of one is all about how you can increase your cash flow. And there's 7 levers for how you can do that. Pricing's one of them, right?
Yes.
Just raise your prices and see what happens. And then there's 6 other ones I won't go into. But so, and if you just raise it 1%, 2%, I'm not, usually when people say raise your prices, they immediately think, I can't raise my prices. They tell a story to themselves, like 30%. I'm like, no, 5%. 2%, you
Yes.
know, reduce your cost of goods, like 2%. And
Yep.
all those things add up over time to give you something a model that really works. I have a
Exactly.
saying I always say, and it's usually for sales, but I think it's true in creative work and business. But I always say, get to know as fast as you can.
Nice.
And know means N-O, like somebody turns you down, or K-N-O-W. Get
I
to
love this.
know that
Yeah.
people will pay what you are offering, get to know what they want. Like, in our world of entrepreneurship, I think you have to get to know fast.
Yes.
And just it's like testing it all the time of how you
Yep.
can best serve your customers.
Yep.
Because
I love it.
you find
I
the
love
right
it.
customers, they'll make it work.
So I have a question, and it's something you said. Okay, right here. So you're an advocate for not having to choose to pick one thing,
Yeah.
right? So you're coaching and you're doing this studio, and that's scheduling is really hard. Time blocking is
Yeah.
hard for people. Getting it all done, easily feeling burnt out because we don't stop.
Yep.
What is your best advice or best practice for scheduling to be able to reserve enough energy to
Yep.
do both things?
So time blocking, what you just said, is a number one.
Yes.
So I block my days. I'm like, Tuesday, Wednesday, studio time. Thursday, Friday, coaching.
Great.
Teaching classes, Saturday or Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, I time block. And then on the days that, like, say I have nothing in the studio and I have a little flexibility. I mean, I'm a creative, so I don't like being stuck anywhere.
Yep.
I don't know, I'll go shopping. Like, I'll
Yep.
like, oh, there's another day, another half
Yep.
a day, and you know, I'm gonna go take a walk or whatever. So I just look at the moment of the day and say what is going on that I need to do, right? So I think that's one thing for sure. And I think oftentimes we think we should only be doing one thing, and I'm like, I don't work that way. I like variety. I think that goes along with creatives. I think we like creativity and new and
entrepreneurs,
yeah, hello.
right?
We're very good at creating and starting. I think it's being really aware of what you're good at and what you're not so great at, and whatever you're not great at over time, like find a partner or automate. I think
Yep.
if you do either of those, you're great. So, like for example, I have all these stained glass patterns I'm going to be selling online because there's a whole business model aspect. for
Awesome.
that. And I'm not detail oriented. Like I do my patterns hand drawn. And so I need somebody to convert them into digital. So I found somebody on Upwork, right?
Yep.
And I pay a fixed price for each one, and they do it all. And I'm like, ooh, you're my new best friend, because I'm not good at that. It would take me 10 hours to do one, and I would rather pay somebody to do that. And that is worth conserving my time.
Absolutely.
So
I love that line. Knowing what you're great at and knowing where you need to partner or automate.
Yeah.
So great. That's great.
No, because when I teach, one of my biggest critical steps is getting people in classes, right? So right out of the gate, I'm like, I'm bad at logistics. Like, I hate it. Like, I don't want to send emails and verification. I'm like, I automated that. I'm like, you can sign up for a class, you can pay, you can get a response email, and all I get is, here's this person showing up on Saturday. I'm like, that's all I need.
Yes. Perfect.
Go.
This has been amazing.
Yeah.
How can our
Way too
listeners
short.
find out how can our listeners find out more about you?
So I have a website. It's HuentelGlas, HuentelGlas. There's my plug. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and Threads, same handle, HuentelGlas. So I think that's the best way to find out about me.
Great.
For it.
I
And
love
we have
it.
classes, I swear now, almost every weekend. I'm an open studio, so basics of stained glass to more specialized. I do one-on-one work for people that really want to get into it. And then we have open studio. Once you take a class, you're in. You
Come
can
in.
come on usually 2 Sundays a month and work on your own projects and just be around people that love glass.
So fun.
Oh my
I
God.
can't wait. Well,
is
thank
great
you,
fun.
Jill. This was an absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you,
Thank you
guys.
for everything you do. Thanks for chatting with us today, and we wish you all the
Thanks for
best.
everything
Man.
you guys do. I love your podcast. I
Thank
think
you.
it's such a win for
Thanks.
women creatives business. I love it. So
Let's
thanks for
go.
doing this work. It's awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Enjoy the weekend.
That was
Thank
fun.
you, too.